Here's a scenario that actually happens. A woman passes away. She's been remarried for 11 years. Her 401k, $600,000, was supposed to go to her two adult children from her first marriage. It didn't. It went to her ex-husband, the one she divorced 15 years ago. Because the day she opened that 401k, years before the divorce, years before the remarriage, she filled out a beneficiary form and she never updated it. Her will said her kids, her trust said her kids, the beneficiary form said her ex, and the beneficiary form won. This is not a hypothetical. This is one of the most common and most irreversible mistakes in blended family financial planning. Today, we're going to show you exactly how to make sure it doesn't happen to your family. I'm April Doherty.
And I'm Jerry Doherty. We're the founders of White Oak Planning. Let's get into it.
Gary, let's explain why this happens. Why do beneficiary designations override a will? And why does that matter so much in a blended family?
Why do beneficiary designations override your will in a blended family? Because they operate under completely different legal rules, and most people have no idea. Your will goes through probate, a legal process where your estate is settled and distributed. That process can take months. It can be contested, and it's public record. Beneficiary designations bypass probate entirely. The money goes directly to whoever is named on the form. No courts, no attorneys, no waiting, fast, private, and permanent. Which sounds great until the name on the form isn't what you want anymore. Here's what most people don't understand. Your will has zero authority over accounts with beneficiary designations. Zero. You can have the most carefully drafted estate plan in the world. If your 401k names your ex-spouse gets your 401k. Your will doesn't override it. In a blended family where remarriages, divorces, and remarriages can change everything, outdated beneficiary designations are the most dangerous financial mistakes we see. The fix is not complicated, but you actually have to do it. So which accounts actually have beneficiary designations that blended families need to review?
Which accounts have beneficiary designations that blended families need to check? Here's the list, and some of these will surprise you. First, all retirement accounts. Your 401k, IRA, Roth IRA, 403b, SEP IRA, every one of them has a beneficiary form. Every one of them overrides your will. Second, life insurance. Every policy, your individual policy, your employer group policy, any policy you haven't looked at in years. Each one has a separate form. Third, annuities, both primary and contingent beneficiary designations. Fourth, bank and brokerage accounts. Most people don't know this one. You can add a POD, payable on death, or TOD, transfer on death, designation to checking accounts, savings accounts, and investment accounts. If you haven't done this intentionally and with the support of a professional, those accounts may go through probate by default. Fifth, your 529 college savings account. Yes, this one too has a designated successor owner. 5 account types. Every one of them matters in a blended family. We put together 2 free resources to go with this video. A 1-page blended family beneficiary checklist that walks through every account type so you can sit down and do this review. And our guide on the 7 mistakes blended families make with their money. Mistakes 1, 2, and 3 are what we're talking about today. Both are linked in the description. What about naming your estate as beneficiary? Is that a good idea?
What happens if you name your estate as the beneficiary of a retirement account? In almost every situation, it's a mistake, and here's exactly why. When you name your estate as a beneficiary, the money goes through probate. That means it becomes subject to creditors, it becomes public record, it costs attorney and court fees, and it can take a year or more to distribute. But here's the tax problem most people miss. Inherited retirement accounts have rules about how quickly the money must be distributed and taxed. A named individual beneficiary generally gets a 10-year window. An estate, as a non-person entity, often has a much shorter window, sometimes 5 years, sometimes faster. That's not just slower to settle, that's potentially a much larger taxable distribution in a much shorter time. More taxes, higher taxes, at the worst possible moment for your family. People often name their estate thinking it gives them more control or because they haven't gotten around to updating the form. Neither is a good reason. Name people, specific people, and update it every time your life changes. So, how do you coordinate beneficiary designations with your estate plan in a blended family, especially when you're trying to provide for a spouse and protect your kids at the same time?
How do you coordinate beneficiary designations with your estate plan in a blended family? Here's the principle. Your beneficiary designations and your estate plan need to tell the same story. The most common failure we see, the will says one thing, the beneficiary form says another, and no one noticed until someone died. So here's a framework. For life insurance, you can name your spouse as primary or your children as contingent, or you can name a trust as the beneficiary. Naming a trust gives you more control over how and when the money is distributed. For retirement accounts, if you're married, federal law generally requires your spouse to be the primary beneficiary unless they sign a written waiver. So you can't simply bypass your spouse in your 401k. What you can do is name a trust as contingent beneficiary, so the money is controlled by your estate if your spouse predeceases you. For bank accounts, brokerage accounts, and real estate, make sure the titling and TOD or POD designations are coordinated with your will and any trust. The word you want is coordinated, not just parallel documents that each look fine in isolation, but a plan that works as a system. Because in a blended family, the gaps between those documents are where the damage happens. Last question. How often should blended families actually review their beneficiary designations?
How often should blended families review their beneficiary designations? Here's the rule. Every time something changes, and at a minimum, once a year. Here are the trigger events that require an immediate review. You get married or remarried, you get divorced, a spouse or a beneficiary passes away, you open a new account, you change jobs and roll over a retirement account, you have a child or a stepchild becomes part of your household, a significant relationship changes. Any one of those is a reason to pull every form and review it the same week. Beyond the trigger events, once a year, put it on the calendar, do it every January, do it every time you file your taxes. Pull up your accounts, check the names, and make sure they still reflect what you actually want. The people who get this right are not financial experts. They're just organized. It is one of the simplest things you can do to protect your family and one of the most frequently skipped.
So here's what we covered. Beneficiary designations override your will. The name on the form wins, regardless of what your will says.
Review every account, retirement accounts, life insurance, annuities, bank accounts, brokerage accounts, 529s. Every single one has a form.
Don't name your estate as beneficiary. Name people, and make sure your designations and your estate plan are coordinated, not just parallel. But remember, this is very nuanced, so you want to work with your estate planning attorney and your financial professional.
We've put together 2 resources to help you act on this today. The Blended Family Beneficiary Checklist, 1 page, every account, a place to write in exactly who you've named and when you last updated it, and our guide on the 7 mistakes blended families make. Mistakes 1, 2, and 3 are exactly what we covered today. Both are in the description. No email required.
White Oak Planning is built entirely around blended family financial planning. Every video on this channel, every conversation we have, this is all we do. Subscribe if this is your situation.
And if you want to sit down and map out whether your plan is actually coordinated, that's a connect call. It takes 1 meeting to get the full picture. Same link in the description.
Money is one of the top reasons second marriages struggle. Don't let it be yours.